Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time again. Let's talk metal. Tonight, just going to be showing off part of an extreme metal collection that I bought several years ago. Now, this is not a recent purchase. I haven't been picking up a ton of stuff recently. In 2023, I've been aiming to keep the purchases relatively light. I've picked up a couple of things here, a couple of things there. I did buy one small pile of stuff just a couple of days ago, but I'm not going to talk about that tonight. We'll save that for a future episode of What's Spinning or something like that. Now, this is a purchase that happened several years ago. So this is one of those episodes, Grandpa tell me about the war way back when kind of things. It's going to take a while to go through some of this stuff. This was one of the craziest collections of extreme metal vinyl that I've ever seen out in the wild. And I only bought a very, very small part of it. And some of these items will take a while just to describe, and you'll see why as I work my way through it. So this occurred around 2017 or 2018. So about 5 or 6 years ago from the time of this recording. One afternoon, my wife and I both happened to have the afternoon off from work, and we decided, we'll go together, kind of, plod our way through downtown on our way to pick our little boy up from daycare. We'd still dropped him off that morning. We'd worked, but we had like a half day or something. I don't remember the specifics. So, we were stopping at a couple of stores here and there, just taking our time. And I was like, oh, hey, let me stop here at, one of the local record stores. Hadn't been in there in probably a month or more. And she's like, oh, yeah, sure. We'll run in. We've got plenty of time. We don't have to pick him up for 45, 50 minutes yet. Groovy. Figure I'll go in, flip through the stuff real quick, just in case they had something interesting. This store didn't typically stock much heavy metal. I had bought, a couple of records here and there from them. Sometimes they would have a new release I wanted, but they had just one column of heavy metal vinyl, all just new releases, all represses of stuff, nothing fancy, big names only, and about the same for the CDs. But every now and then, you can still find something interesting. So we, go into the store, wander over to the metal section, and right away things look wrong because instead of just one straight little, row of vinyl, they've got like an entire wall of vinyl all with heavy metal tags on it. I'm just like, what in the blue hell is going on here? That looks weird. Yeah, I start flipping through some of the different boxes, trying to see, have they just scattered it out, or did they have it all horizontally instead of vertically? I don't know. Over the next several minutes, I start figuring out that somehow they've ended up with a massive, I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of records of extreme metal. A lot of it, black death metal type stuff. Most of it was stuff that had been released during the 2000s, but a lot of it was things like, limited edition presses, DieHard edition presses, things on colored vinyls, and things I recognized as, kind of rare bootlegs. And I was just like, where in the world? This store has never had anything like this before. I mean, if you found, a used copy of Judas Priest Defenders of the Faith, it was a pretty good day in there most times. They had multiple boxes of 7-inch metal vinyl, a lot of these, different splits that had been done on small labels and stuff too. And just, kind of flummoxed at what I'm seeing here. It's just a massive amount. In chatting with one of the folks working there at the store, they said that, oh yeah, what happened was somebody passed away who had collected all this stuff, and their family brought the whole collection in here and wanted us to buy it. So they said it was a real pain to go through because this is not our kind of stuff, but we dug through it for a while, came up with a price. And they're like, yeah, it's actually been selling really well. We've actually already moved a whole lot of stuff. And I'm just thinking, good grief. I don't know who it was that passed away, but yeah, they had obviously really focused on getting a lot of the DieHard editions and limited vinyl pressings of all kinds of stuff. Well, I looked at my watch. We'd already been in there like 20, 25 minutes. So it's like, honey, I literally don't have time to figure this out right now. So we just kind of flipped through the boxes, kind of was quickly snapping some pictures of what was in there. so I could sit and try to process it all later that evening. We still had to go pick up the little boy. There was no way I couldn't even get through all the stacks in the next 30 minutes, much less pick through them, figure out what to buy, make a purchase, and still get over there to pick up my little boy before the daycare just assumed that Melissa and I had wandered off to join the circus, and they, sold our son to, some kind of, traveling sideshow or something. It's like, okay, I've got some pictures. I've at least got ideas of what's here. I'll look it up later and come back first thing tomorrow morning, which I did. Spent, hours that evening trying to look some of this stuff up, figuring out what pressings and all they had. We went back the next morning, and yes, it took about 90 minutes just to flip through the actual boxes of stuff, just to go from A to Z one time and start to get a sense in my head of, okay, that looks cool, that looks cool, that looks cool. Yeah, about an hour and a half. And then, of course, I had to kind of pull stuff out, check condition, see which ones I really wanted to try to purchase, which ones I didn't. Ended up, with a pretty big stack that I'll start working through here in a moment. This is one of those situations where it's always good to be friendly and known to the owners of your local record store. I'm not on a first name basis with them or anything, but they recognize me because, again, I usually come in at least once or twice a month. And, so I was chatting with them. It's like, hey, this is a lot of stuff. Can we talk price issues here? And they were willing to help me out a bit because I was buying a lot of items. And again, this wasn't stuff they were used to having in the store, so they were more than happy to be able to unload a big chunk of it in one fell swoop. They knew I was there buying in person. They had started trying to sell some of this stuff online. But like, yeah, you're here in person, you'll pay cash. Okay, yeah, let's work together. And so I walked out with all of the items I'm about to show you. A couple of funny things up front. First off, I probably don't even have all the records in the pile. I've probably forgotten a couple of things that were in the stack. So this is the minimum of what I walked out the door with. And looking forward, there's kind of a good deal for the store and me because the store started to realize there was a lot of local interest in having more heavy metal material in the store. And ever since then, they have stocked a lot more material. They've bought some other collections. They've kept the metal section expanded both in vinyl and CD. And it's become a place that, yeah, you can pick up a lot more stuff from that's more interesting on a very regular basis. And again, before this big collection came into their door, it was pretty metal light in there. Most of the time you went in just to flip around, find a used CD or something and say hey and move on. So what kind of stuff did I actually end up with? I got a couple of the 7-inch items, only two, but ones that I kind of liked. One of the ones that caught my eye was Hellhammer 7-inch. This is Blood Insanity, and it is a picture disc version. I'm always kind of a sucker for anything that has old Hellhammer material on it. There's really nothing rare or exclusive about this, but yeah, I'll pick up different pressings and different editions, of stuff that features the old Hellhammer tracks. So I was just like, okay, cool. That's a good start. The only other one I picked up, just because I knew a little bit about both of these bands, but didn't have any material by them, was a 7-inch split with Niflheim and Volcano on it called Thunder Metal. So that was another one. They had lots of the splits like this with different combinations of bands. They had several others with Niflheim on it, but that one appealed to me. I had played some clips and knew enough about those bands, so I was like, yeah, I'll dig that one. All right, on to the 12-inch stuff. One thing that I got was vinyl press, Carpathian Forests, Bloodlust, and Perversion. Always liked this band's early material in particular. I had a bootleg CD of this a long time ago, and it eventually traded it or sold it off. This one's 2-album set. But yeah, I always kind of like, very kind of harsh sound. Even if the first couple albums are pretty good. So they had this. There's a chance to pick it back up on vinyl. It's just like, oh yeah, absolutely. So we're off to a good start here. These next ones were something I had not seen before. had a couple of Judas Iscariot releases. They had Heaven in Flames, and this is a purple vinyl pressing. Now, again, some of these items are bootlegs, most assuredly, but Judas Iscariot, I had had a couple of their CDs when they were active in the very late 90s. The band I always kind of liked, never been completely nuts about. They're not my favorite US black metal band or anything like that. So eventually the CDs again had uh, moved on in some purge, but I knew their stuff was always kind of hard to come by. And especially, I mean, I'm standing here in a store that typically has nothing in terms of metal, and they've got colored vinyl pressings of Judas Iscariot albums now present. It's just like, that's that's coming home with me. Absolutely. Heaven in Flames, good album by the band. And they had another one. They also had The Cold Earth Slept Below. Now, this one's just a black vinyl pressing. And again, this one's probably also a bootleg, if I remember right. It's a little hard to even keep straight all of this stuff. But yeah, they had two Judas Iscariots, and I picked both of those up, added them to the stack. Another one that I was really happy to find in the store, they had DieHards Drawing Down the Moon. Classic album. It's been talked about a lot. This is the Primitive Reaction pressing. Uh, Marty and the other guys have covered this one not too long ago on the Wednesday Album Club series videos. I've always dug this album quite a bit. It, yes, is a very simple, primitive, raw kind of sound. It almost sounds like you've taken a early Celtic Frost or Hellhammer and you're playing it at like 18 RPMs or something. But it absolutely works for me. I've always liked the sound on it quite a bit. Weird cover and all. And wander in the store and find a vinyl pressing of it. It's just like, yeah, absolutely. That add it to the stack. If you're wondering in terms of pricing how these things were, they were certainly not giving them away. The way this store operates, and I think it's actually pretty smart, is that they'll check Discogs to see what stuff is typically going for, kind of look at like the average price, not the high price, just the average. But then they'll knock about 15% off of it. So if an album's like $100 on average through Discog sales, they'll price it at 85. And that way they can honestly say when somebody's looking at something, it's like, hey, you're not going to find that cheaper online. So there's no point in bugging us about that. If you want it, it's right here. You can see it in person. You can buy it in person, and you're getting it cheaper than you're going to get it on Discogs, unless you buy, a pretty beat up or used copy, or if you just happen to get lucky and find a really, really cheap copy someone put on Discogs without checking the price. So I think it's a good strategy. You always feel like you're getting it cheaper than you would online. They don't have customers always complaining, but guys, I could get this cheaper on Discogs. They avoid all those problems. All right, back to the stack. What else did they have? Well, as I said, most of the stuff in the collection was releases from 2000 forward, but they did have a couple of older original kind of heavy extreme items. And one of those I definitely had to pick up was a first pressing copy of Scream Bloody Gore. This has the original insert with it and everything. It's very nice condition. It has one little saw mark in the corner where it had a promo cut. That is really the only issue with it. I'd never had this on vinyl before, and I was just like, I'm pretty sure that's an original. Took it out, looked at it, I was like, yeah, that's an original. And sure enough, it was. They also had one of the later repressings of this where it was done like in a box set edition with like, the band logo and foil and everything. Came with a slip mat of the artwork. It was a very, very nice item, but I was already buying a ton of stuff. The price tag was adding up. It was a little hard to justify buying this and that at the same time. So I ended up leaving that one behind. Like I said, I could only buy a small fraction of what they had. They had, trying to remember some of the other stuff I didn't pick up. They had a lot of 12-inch and 7-inch vinyl from Cult de Ghouls. They had a couple of enslaved albums on colored vinyl. Probably not original pressings, but still very nice copies. Just stuff like that, on and on and on. All right. On to two or three of the more complicated items. There were a couple of kind of special edition pressing things that I picked up. I'm literally having to make room around here just to show these off because they're not going to be easy to display. One thing was this box set. This caught my eye because it was up front, even that first day we went in. A 3 LP set of material from Morbid. This, of course, is Dead's band pre-Mayhem, which I had never really heard any of the material. I'd always heard that he was in a band called Morbid, but hadn't checked it out. So ended up picking this up. So it's basically the material the band recorded in 1987. It's called Year of the Goat. It came in this, slipcase thing. So we've got a slipcase wrapped around the album to start with. Now, there was one piece of damage here. There is a rip across the front that's pretty noticeable. They had this marked down because of the condition. I thought, well, really, am I going to find another copy anywhere? And if I do, and it's in better condition, it's going to cost a lot more. I think I'm happy getting this one. So what's inside this slipcase? You get this thing, which is, again, it's a 3 LP set, and it's weird because it's not a gatefold. It's actually a 6-panel trifold, like you typically see on Digipack CDs. But it's on vinyl, which makes it really weird to open up because you have to do this kind of thing. And then you have to kind of fold it again without the whole thing just flopping around so that, yeah, it has this. But there's tons of pictures inside. Yeah, and it's a little hard to hold. Really nice design, really nice layout. Now, again, while there's 3 albums worth of material on here, when you check the track list, it's various demos, and a lot of times it's the same few songs over and over. There are multiple versions of almost every song here. The band had a limited catalog. It's only the stuff they did in 1 year. But you get to hear kind of how the songs evolved from, 1 month to a few months later to how they sounded, with a live recording. The albums themselves, for the copy I picked up, were all on these kind of neat splatter vinyls, where it's clear vinyl with kind of like a black splatter pattern. And the center labels all have pictures of the band, in particular, trying to focus on pictures of Dead on the labels. So even the center labels are pretty nice, like the colored vinyl pattern they used. And then it also comes with a, not a full-sized LP insert, but actually a very long and detailed booklet talking through the band's history quite a bit, written by other members, where, they're trying to clear up, a little bit of the mystique and mystery about the band and about Dead himself, and be like, look, this was a bunch of kids goofing off a whole lot, and it's not like we set out to become, the most cult of cult bands. It's not like, yes, Dead was kind of a strange character, but no, he wasn't, always, this, character that people have made him out to be later on. So interesting read. This is, really cool to have their perspective on it. It makes it a really nice package. So really cool item. Glad I picked it up, even though, again, there's not a ton of music on it. I actually do like a lot of the tracks that they did. Kind of good. Okay, but the stack wasn't done yet. Also ended up getting this. This is an Autopsy DieHard edition for, what is it? Awakened in Gore? Awakened in Gore. This was one from Nuclear War Now. And literally, the vinyls are printed and the whole thing published, as a hardback book printing. So it actually has a spine to it and everything. Cool with the design and the silver foil here. This one again opens up and you've got, pages printed directly inside of it that you can read through. This one's a 2 LP set, if I'm remembering right. And these are on gray vinyl. This includes their 1987 demo, the 1988 demo, and also some live and other tracks to it. Being a DieHard edition, it also came with a bunch of extra stuff, of course. Let's see, you get the autopsy sticker. You get, I'm not sure if this came with it or not, but there was a random insert included. There's a big full-size poster that has the Awakened in Gore artwork on it. I won't unfold this all the way since you can't even see it, but it's a full-size poster. The same artwork is included on the booklet that's included. So this is what's on the poster itself. Band pictures laid out on the back. And lots of pictures, flyers, all that kind of stuff featured throughout the booklet. But wait, there's more. You also get the full-sized back patch for your denim jacket with the same Awakened in Gore artwork on it. So, cool collection. I like their demo material. The early autopsy stuff has always been my favorite, from the first 1 or 2 releases. So it's just like, well, this is going to cost a lot of money, but add it to the stack. One more item to show to wrap this up with. This arguably my favorite thing that I found. It is another box set 3 LP edition done on Osmos Records for Absu's The Third Storm of Cithril. Thick box, cardboard, but gorgeous with the silver foiling on the logo. This is the cover art from the album, of course, and it just looks absolutely fantastic when put on the front of the box here. There's a ton of stuff in this box that we'll go through here in a second as well. So this, of course, has the Third Storm of Cithril album in it. I've already taken all the stuff out of the box, but there's a gatefold cover for the album itself included. This was the first Absu I had. And again, this was another one that I had gotten rid of over time, but I've always kind of had a soft spot for this particular album from the band. Third Storm of Cithril, it's spread over 2 albums in the box. These are pressed on gray vinyl as well, same as the Autopsy DieHard edition. Along with that, you get a full-sized poster of the Third Storm of Cithril artwork, which again, I won't unfold because you wouldn't even be able to see it unless I zoomed all the way back to the other wall. But yep, you have a full-size poster for that. But wait, there's more, because I guess they figured there's still room in the box. Why not put some other stuff into it as well? They also have the In the Eyes of Ialdanak. We're going to go with Ialdanak. In the Eyes of an Aldanak is included in here as well. So there's a third album, also on gray vinyl, that has that included in the box. And that also includes a poster and a gatefold sleeve. So another gatefold cover and another full-size poster with, it's got this cover art on like the top 2/3 of the poster, and then it's got this picture of the band on like the bottom 1/3 of the poster. So you get both of those titles in the one box set. They had a second one of these box sets from Absu for the Terra release. And I know most people prefer the Terra release. I've just never spent as much time with that one. Like I said, I've always kind of had a soft spot for Third Storm of Cithril. The Terra box was very nice as well, but my wallet had already pulled me over into a corner and said, Alan, we need to talk, and not about metal. I'm running out of stuff. So you're going to have to make some hard choices here. I could not afford to get both of the Absu boxes, so I went with the one that I like better. I think this was definitely the more attractive of the two in terms of packaging. And again, it's the album I personally enjoy. Had to leave the Terra box set there. The optimist in me is like, well, maybe Payday rolls around. If it's still here, I can come back and pick that one up too. Hey, we all know how this story ends. Payday came, and I went back, and it was not still there. And I kind of knew that was going to happen at the time, but I really had reached my limit on what I could afford to spend on this one giant pile of vinyl. So that is most of what I walked out of the store with that day. As I said, I am sure there's an album or two that I have forgotten and left out by accident. But you've gotten the gist of the kind of stuff they had. And again, we're talking a couple of hundred items of this stuff, enough to fill up multiple rows. They went from just one column of vinyl to essentially an entire wall of heavy metal vinyl. But again, this worked out well in the end. The store did well with the collection. A lot of folks got really neat items that they liked, and it helped the store realize that, yeah, maybe we ought to bring more of this stuff in. It sells really well, and hey, it's good business. So that is going to do it for this video. Now, let's talk metal in the comments down below. What do you think of some of these? Anything particularly cool or interesting that I seem to, blow past a little too quickly, or that you want some more details about? I have a lot of the pressing information and all that stuff written down about these. I just haven't pulled out those files to go through every single number and such. A lot of folks are not going to care about that. It would make the video twice as long. But if there's something that you want to know, hey, exactly which pressing was that or how many copies, I might have that information. Leave a comment below and I'll be glad to dig that up for you. Was I insane for not getting the Terra box or the Death box? The Death one was pretty sweet, but again, that was be like, I think the Death box was 75, $100 at the time. The Terra box set, I don't remember the exact price. It was like another $60. I mean, this stuff adds up pretty quick. And as you saw, I picked up a lot of it. So I did what I could afford to do. But yeah, leave a comment down below about any of the items that you've seen that are interesting, or about similar kind of crazy over the top collections that you've stumbled into in the wild before. People always like hearing these kind of collection stories from one another. It's always, nice when you go out looking. Most of the time you find absolutely nothing, but sometimes you're on your way to pick up your kid from daycare, and just so happens the store has completely revamped its entire wall, stuff around an extreme metal collection that showed up. All right, let's call it to an end. Until next time, everybody take care. And as always, keep banging your head.